Morning, sir. Can you hear me? I
Yes, sir.
can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Is my microphone messed up or something?
Yours or mine?
I'm not. I'm asking you. Can you really hear me clearly, or do I need to put on my headset?
Say something again.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can hear you clearly, very clearly.
Okay. Yeah, I was doing a study with my friend this morning, and I had to put my headset on. I don't know what was wrong.
No, no, man, I can hear you very clear. So how are you doing?
Eating breakfast.
Okay. All right. You have a what? You have about 4 minutes to do breakfast before we
How
start
many
at
people
9.
do we have in this class, Eddie? Just
Well,
me and my dudes?
yes, when was it? Monday, there were just you and Emmanuel. I don't know if there are others. I don't suppose that there is, because they would have been, or if they were to be in the class, they should have been there on Monday. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just three of us would have been are in the class. It doesn't matter anyway. I'll just wait
All right.
until um
Hey, I'll be right back. I've got to go
yes,
put some
okay.
things up over here. I'll be right
Okay,
back.
fine. Yeah.
Dave doesn't care if I wear like a sweatshirt, does he? I mean, man, it's cold up here. I am not really trying
Oh,
to.
yeah, that's right. I mean, you have on your GST shirt. I can still see through the sweatshirt shirt. Um Maybe the hat might be a problem.
Hat.
But yeah, but um, I know it's cold. It's cold here, but not as cold as it is, I
Oh,
guess, up where you are. But
well, I guess he'll tell me one way or the other.
yes, right, yeah.
He don't
But if it's
shy away from it. All right, I'll be right back.
yeah, okay,
Guess it's just you and me today.
All right, I'm going. All right, we're going to Emmanuel is yeah. Um, let me see. It's now 2 minutes after. Let me give Emmanuel about another 2 or so minutes, and then I will start. There are other things to cover. All right. Mhm. Okay. All right. All right. Before I go into the text, I just want to do two housekeeping matters. Number one, this is the second class we're having, so I just wanted to outline the sort of a schedule that I want to follow. We'll take our break at 10:30 for 15 minutes, and then get back at quarter to 11 and then go up until 12. All right. So we will break at 10:30 for a 15 minutes break, and then um, we start back at quarter to and go through until 12. The other thing, have you been able to look at the notes, Daniel's notes on the LMS? Have you found them?
I actually just downloaded them and now I have them on my computer. So I have not looked at them yet. I'm actually looking
Okay,
at them right now.
but it's there though.
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to remind you to look at it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, right. So keep looking at it on because it's a very useful resource that I want you to go through while we
Okay.
um, while we do
So
that.
that needs to be our like daily reading kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Yes. Or it is as soon as we end, like as we end this class, if you could read the notes relevant to this class and maybe prepare for the next one, that would do me well. But that would do you well as well. All right. The last time we stopped, we are to begin. I want us to cover a lot today. We're going to go through chapter 2, which we sort of started on Monday. Um, Finish chapter 2 and then go on from chapters 3 through to chapter 6. So there's going to be much to cover. All right. Let's look at chapter 2, verses 1 to 4 at the very outset. My son, if you receive my words and treasure my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, yet, yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasure. All right. Now, what I want you to notice here is that Solomon is using the words of chasing, of searching, of going after treasure, right? So he talks about if you treasure up commandments in your heart, if your ears are attentive to wisdom, if you call out for it. So what Solomon is telling his son, and by extension, what Solomon is telling us is that we have to seek and know the value of wisdom. And there is a value to wisdom. And so he begins with, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments. Now, I want you to see how he's using the word words. So the words or the teachings refer to the commandments. So it is almost he's using synonyms here, saying, okay, the words of the Torah, the words of the law, the words of the Lord, word of Moses, if you receive those, if you take that into your memory, um, if you treasure it up in your heart, if you store it up in your heart, it's like David says in Psalms, "Thy word I have hid in my heart that I might not sin against you." That's the concept here. All right. Now he says, if you do all of that, if you um, are attentive to wisdom, if you call out for insight, if you seek for silver. So there's this searching, there is this almost like a treasure hunt. All right. He makes this promise. He says, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord receives, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. So Solomon's point here is that there is a reward for searching for wisdom, but that wisdom is rooted in two things. It is rooted in, one, the fear of the Lord, and it is also rooted in the knowledge of God. So it's as if Solomon is saying, you want to benefit, you want to really have understanding and wisdom and wise, and you want to be virtuous, you want to be a person of virtue. Here's what you do: seek the fear of the Lord, have the fear of the Lord, and have the knowledge of the Lord. All right. Now I want you to see two things here. There is a relationship here between there is a relationship here between um, number one, the fear of the Lord and the knowledge of the Lord. That okay. What did you what did we say the fear of the Lord was? You remember what we said the fear of the Lord involved, so that we have some discussion.
His sovereignty and giving reverence to him, his powerful nature.
All right. Sovereignty and giving reverence. Mhm. All right, his powerful nature, accepting that. There are two basic things though. Him, you all of that. You recognize his sovereignty, all of that. So there is, on the one hand, the emotions. Um, your emotions is on the one hand, but also there is the knowledge, which is the intellect. So what Solomon is saying, you can't divorce your emotions from your intellect in your service to God. You can't have one without the other. All right. And this is the way that Solomon says you're going to find wisdom. All right. So he says, for instance, look at verse 3. If you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, right? So in verse 3, um, so in verse 3, what he's saying is that if you cry for knowledge, so crying he's suggesting there is this craving, there is this desire, there is this searching. It's almost like you're a cry. You're howling out. You're just wailing, not in terms of a sorrowful wailing, but wailing in terms of begging, beseeching for. You're lifting up your voice. I want this knowledge. I'm going to search for it. I'm going to, and it shows the effort that
Prayer.
Yes, it's almost like a prayer. All right, it's a beseeching God. So what Solomon is saying is that both are responsible. Both, if you want to have the knowledge of God, you need to have both. All right. Look now then from verse 6 onward. He says, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield for those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice." All right. So, in other words, God will reward the man who searches for wisdom. That is, fearing him, respecting him, wanting to be obedient to his will. All right. Now, then remember, there's a condition. If you do this, if you do this, if you do this, or morning, Emmanuel, we are in chapter 2. All right. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, right. Yes. All right. Okay. We're in
My
chapter
brother.
2. Yeah, right. Okay. We're in Proverbs chapter 2. All right. So and we right now are going to pick up at um we are in fact verse we're at verse 5 or verse 8. All right. Chip, your student is here, so he wants you now to explain what we have just been saying up to verse 8.
The
In fact, up to
idea behind the
verse
text here.
9. We're at verse 9. Mm-hmm.
The idea here is that we need to seek wisdom from God, and not only do we need the knowledge, we need the understanding. And God rewards seekers of wisdom. He provides these things. The Lord gives from his mouth. He stores up. He is a shield. He preserves. So all the power and wisdom really originate from God.
Yeah. All right. And one important thing that I want to just remind us of: serving God and fearing God is a question not just of, it is also a question of our intellect. So both, there has to be this both relationship between our intellect and our emotion if we are going to be pleasing to God. All right. That's how we're going to gain wisdom. All right. Now, notice verse 9. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity for every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will watch over you, understanding will guard you, delivering you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech, who forbids, uh, who forsakes the paths of the uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perversion of evil. Men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. Look at this verse, right? And um, okay, if you seek after wisdom, if you do this, if you do all of that, then God, who has the wisdom and understanding, if you're seeking for it, if you're earnestly seeking after it, wanting it, desiring it, then because God is giving you wisdom, then there are certain things that are going to happen. Essentially, what is it that he's saying between verses 9 and 15? Look at what he's saying between verses 9 and 15.
This would be the result of following the instruction
Mm-hmm. All right.
that was
Yeah.
given before.
Mm-hmm.
Good
All right,
son.
what would be the result?
Well, the result would be that you would have wisdom, discretion, um, you would be upright, um, you would walk in the ways of light.
Mm-hmm. All right, okay. So, um,
Discernment, knowledge,
if you,
understanding, intellect, all
mhm,
those things would begin to coagulate into one.
yeah, and you see, here's the point. If you really want to live an upright life, if you are going to live prudently in this, in a crooked world, an ungodly world, a world that does not respect God or does not have the God, um, a world where you have insight and discretion, is if you seek the wisdom that God gives, if you do have the fear of the Lord. So, in other words, the fear of the Lord, that is your willingness to obey Him, to serve Him, to trust Him, that is what is going to make you live a pleasing, godly life in this crooked world. You can't have any insight. You can't be any person of discretion if you do not have the fear of the Lord. If you don't seek the wisdom from God, you can't be a man of virtue if the it is going to be it is watching verse 8 is watching over the way of the saints. Here's what it will do. It will discretion will watch over you. It will watch over you. It will guard you. It will make you rejoice and delight in an evil world because you have the fear of God. You have the fear of the Lord. That's what Solomon is saying. So there is this need for the fear of the Lord. You see what he's saying. Um, okay, between verses 10, in verses 12 to 15, you will be delivered from evil men. You'll be not a part of people who speak perverse things. You will avoid those who make your life difficult, and you will be delivered from an adulterous world. Watch what he says in read verse um, 16 now to verse 22.
You want it, Emmanuel? You want me to do it?
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead, Chip.
Is it 16:22?
16 to 22, yeah, of the verse, yeah.
To deliver you from the strange woman, from the adulteress who flatters with her words, that leaves the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house sinks down to death, and her tracks lead to the dead. None who go to her return again, nor do they reach the paths of life. So you will walk in the way of good men and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will live in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be uprooted from it.
All right. What is he saying that this wisdom will help you to do?
On the right path as a good, righteous man, blameless.
All right. Blameless from what? Look at, okay, look at verses 16 to 19 in particular. What is Solomon now warning us about? Youth.
He's warning us about adulterous women that can pull
Yeah.
you off the path, that do not
Mm-hmm.
think about God. And if you follow them, then it will lead to death.
Yeah. What Solomon does now, Solomon is introducing the idea of the, and I want you to write this down. Solomon is introducing right here the idea of the adulterous woman. So he is, remember, he's teaching that this is his son how to live in a discretionately in this world, right? He says, it is only as you have done, which comes from God, the fear of the Lord. You have to treasure that up in your heart. You have to practice that in your life. If, verse 16, you want to be delivered from the forbidden woman, from the adulterous woman. She's going to be enticing. She is going to have smooth words. Verse 18. She's going to forsake her husband, who forsakes the companion of her youth. She's going to forget the covenant of God. But you see, if you don't have wisdom, if you don't have the fear of the Lord, it will be the wisdom that you have from God. You get what I'm saying? That's what the verse is. None, verse 19. For her house sinks down to death, and her paths in the departed. None who go to her come back, and they do not do, nor do they regain the paths of life. They will destroy themselves. So in this verse, he is introducing the idea, and he's going to continue that right up to chapter 7, about the idea of the foolish woman, the adulterous woman, who you're going to have the lady wisdom, but you're also going to have the woman of folly. And Solomon is saying, be careful. All right. So that, so you will walk, verse 20, in the ways of the good and keep to the paths of the righteous. Okay. So that is what Solomon is actually doing in chapter 2. All right. Any questions, any comments, any responses to that? All right. Okay. Let's move on now to chapter 3. We're going to go now to we're going to try to see if we can cover chapters 3 to chapter 6. All right, in this class. All right. Um, just stop me at any time, and we can discuss the passages as well. I want to begin. Usually, what I'm going to try to do is to give you a sort of a outline of the chapters that we will be studying, because for me personally, it helps me if I have an outline, and I hope and possibly it will help you. So we're going to try to see what is it that chapters 3 to 6, what these chapters are actually talking about. So let's look now at chapters 3 to 6. And what Solomon is doing here, remember we said that chapters 1 to 9 is the prologue to the book. Solomon is, and by extension, all of Israel, and further extension to all of humanity. They are about Solomon's advice on the path to life. That's what chapters 3 to 6 are about. He's advising on the path to life. All right. Breaking them down into chapters now, that is from the individual chapters. In chapter 3, the advice is do not forget your parents' major teachings. Don't forget the teachings that your parents gave you. That's what he is going to be doing in chapter 3. All right. Chapter 4, he is going to say, obey your parents' instructions. In chapter 5, he is advising his son to avoid harmful temptations and influences. And in chapter 6, he's advising how to avoid life's pitfalls. All right. Now, let's look at chapter 3. All right. I want you to see how chapter 3 is divided. Chapter 3 has 3 basic sections. All right. And each of these sections begins with, my son, do not. Notice it. All right. My son, do not. So, the first, all right, try to identify where you have the my son, do not. If you can pick up where it starts, then you're picking up the outline for the chapter. So,
Yes, there's one at 11.
The first one, yes, good. The first one is between verses 1 to 11. The second one is
21.
Right, 21 to is 21. No, the second one is 11 to 20, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. And then the other one is from 21 through to the end of the verse, end of the chapter. All right. So those we're going to call those the 3 discourses, the 3 discourses in the chapter. All right. Now, what Solomon is doing in these discourses is to begin with the negative. Do, my son, do not. My son, do not forget. My son, do not despise. My son, do not lose sight of. So he starts negatively. Do not forget, do not despise, do not lose sight of. All right. Look at what he's going to be doing now in verses 1 to 4. All right. My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablets of your heart, so you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. What is Solomon saying between verses 1 to 4? What is he saying?
If you follow the things that I tell you, your life is going to be much easier.
All right, okay. If you're okay, yes. If you follow what I'm saying, you are going to live a good, productive life. All right. But now, notice what is it that he must not forget. Don't forget my teaching, and don't for and don't well my teaching. Don't forget that. In other words, you have been taught that. It's not that you don't know, you have been taught that. Now, don't forget my teachings. What are my teachings? My teachings are the commandments, not my commandments, but the commandments from God. Don't forget that. All right. Um, if you look at Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 11, and then Proverbs 4 and verse 2. Well, we can get to Proverbs 4 and 2 when we get there. But Proverbs 4 and verse 2 says, um, for he will, uh, for I gave you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 11 and 19.
Verse 11 says, beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgment, his statutes, which I command you today. 12. Lest when you have eaten and are full, and have built beautiful houses and dwell in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your servants and your gold are multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, when your heart is lifted up, and you forgot the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led you through the great and the terrible wilderness, in which you were foul
Sorry,
serpents and
Emmanuel, just read verse 9. Just read verse 19.
okay,
Yeah.
and a land in which you eat bread without scarcity, in which you lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper.
All right. Okay. Here's the point. What Solomon is doing is saying, in our culture, that is in our Old Testament Hebrew culture, the father is to instruct the son. That's his job. That's what God has laid upon him. My father, and he's going to say that later on in the Proverbs, my father taught me, that is, David taught me to keep the commandments of the Lord. Your grandfather, David, taught you by the fact that he taught me. And commandment. I want to point out something to you. Look at verse 4. Verse 3 and 4. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you, so you will find favor and good success. So here is, and I'm going to look at this maybe later on, where Hebrew poetry runs on what is called parallelism. But the similar lines sometimes are the opposite of each other. They call it antithetical parallelism. And what it means, here is what it is. I'm going to spend some time on that later on. Don't do this, but do this. He's saying the same thing negatively and positively. So do not forget the steadfast, the teachings of God. Well, what must I do? Here is the opposite, meaning the same thing, but let your heart keep my commandments. Let not your steadfast love and faithfulness, let not your steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. All right? Bind them around your neck. All right, mute your mic for me, please. Let not your steadfast love do this, but do this. Emmanuel, mute your mic. All right. Okay. So I want us to look at something here. All right. And it is the word favor. Chip, what translation are you using, Chip? Look at verse 3. What translation are you using?
New American Standard.
Okay, let me hear what the New American Standard says about verses 3 and 4.
Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. So you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man.
All right. Some translations, I think, say mercy. All right. I want to give you the word that is used here for steadfast love and for favor. All right, steadfast love and for favor. And that word is the word hesed. And it is Hessed. Right? Steadfast love, favor. Let not hesed forsake you. What is the idea in this Hebrew word hesed? In other words, let not commitment, let not faithfulness, let not loyalty. Good? Be loyal, be committed, be faithful, be steadfast. Don't forsake your commitment and your loyalty to God. Why? Because because that is how you are going to find favor. All right. Now let's move to verses 5 to 10. All right. Okay. If I were to give you a memory verse, which I never normally do, but if I were going to give you a memory verse that you would want you to memorize, is verses 5 to 8. But I think you all know it because all right. Here's what he says. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. Do not be wise in your own eyes, for the fear the Lord, and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. Honor the Lord with all your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. What is Solomon saying here? Or what does this passage here mean to me? And Chip is laughing.
It's so much. It's a lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mindset change. It's so hard to put words to what this means. It's an about face change, really, of leaning on what you think and leaning on what the actual facts are from the source. Um, I spent my whole life doing this.
Okay.
So it's good to see the contrast
Yeah,
in my
yes, there's
own
a
life
contrast. Yeah, there
where
is a
it's
contrast.
to lean on God, then when things don't really work out the way I would like or want or expect, it doesn't matter because I please God.
Mhm. All right. Emmanuel, what does this verse, what would you say about this verse?
In other words, you cannot do anything without God
Mm-hmm.
because He is the source of our life. Even when you wanted to do something, if you want to plan to do something, you have to acknowledge God because He is the source of our life. And through that, if we trust Him, everything that we have entrusted in Him, we are going to do that through the strength of Him.
Yeah. All right. Okay, good points. I want us to see some things in these verses. There are some key um, things that we are to do in this verse. First of all, and if you're thinking of a sermon idea, if you're thinking of wanting to put these as an encouragement to your members, here are some things that we have between verses 5 and verse 10. One, fear. All right. So one would be, well, in the first one would be trust in the Lord. Okay. The second one is fear the Lord. Third, the fear of the Lord would be in terms of acknowledging the Lord, right? The third will be honor. Honor the Lord with your substance. So here, what Solomon is doing, he's giving again a positive and a negative. Watch this. Positively, trust the Lord with all of your heart. That's the positive side. What's the negative side? Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. But now, do not be wise in your own eyes. Well, then what must you do? You must fear the Lord and turn away from evil. All right? Then you see the blessings that you get from this verse. It will heal your flesh and refresh your bones. Well, what then must you do? Honor the Lord with all yours, with your wealth. Then you will do this. Now, I want us to see the word lean. The word lean comes from the word batak. And you can write this down, Batach. And the idea of the word here is this. Be confident. Rely on. Place your trust in. Rely on the Lord. He is the object of your trust. He's where you must deposit your trust. And then not only will you be physically rewarded, but you will also be spiritually rewarded. So here is what Solomon is saying. You must trust God. You must fear him. But also you must worship. Honor the Lord with your wealth. Honor him. So the idea here is you this is the way you're going to be wise. This is the way that you are going to be a virtuous person. This is the way you're going to live in this life. You must trust, you must honor, you must worship, you must fear. All right. Now, this basically is what Solomon is saying, that you must trust in verses 5 to 9. Trust the Lord. And here is what Chip talks about a mind change. But this is how your life is going to be transformed. We have a tendency to lean on our own understanding. That's not where true understanding is. All right. So first of all, you need to be doing that. That's what Solomon is saying. All right. Now then, look at what he's going to say in verses 3 to in the next verses 11 to 20. The other, my son. All right. Do you know the word pericope? Have you ever heard the word pericope? No? Yes? Maybe? Perhaps? All right. It is Pericope, pericope, right? What it simply means is a section of a series of verses based on a particular point, right? It is the cutting out or the cutting out of a section, and that section has one central idea. Now, I'm suggesting that in chapter 3, we have these discourses beginning with my son, my son, my son. We could see them as pericopes. In other words, we can see them as, we can take them out of their context without being, when I say take them out of their context, I mean take them out of the chapter and look at them as verses individually, because they're making one particular point. All right. So if we were to take
the word there.
Say it again.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
The word you were just defining there, will you spell that once more? Pericope.
You cut around a section of scripture. So if I'm not suggesting that you use that with your sharp instrument, but if you were to cut out verses 5 through to 10, you will see that it deals with one particular issue, our relationship with God. We must trust, we must fear, we must honor, we must worship. All right? And that is what he's telling his son to do. Now let's look at the second one, because there are 3 of them in this chapter. Let's look at the second one. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be weary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights. Where have we heard this verse before? My son, do not reject the discipline of the Lord. So now the father is calling on the son not to reject or show reproof at the discipline of the Lord. Where have we heard this verse before? Despise not the discipline of the Lord, or be weary of his reproof, for the Lord reproves him whom he loves, and as a father the son in whom he delights. Sounds familiar? The Lord chastens whom he loves. If you're a son, Hebrews chapter 6 or Hebrews chapter 12, I think it is. Look at Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12. All right, and I think the verse that we want is verses 5 and 6. And have you forgotten the exhortation that address you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the sacrifice of the Lord. Do not be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one whom he loves and chastises every son whom he receives. The writer of Hebrews is quoting directly from Proverbs here. And here is the idea now. In fact, you tell me, what is Solomon saying? Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding, for the gain. Okay, verses where were we? Verses 11 and 12. My son, do not reprove the discipline of your father. What is he suggesting here?
He's saying again, he's basically repeating what he's already said. Don't reject the way of the Lord, and choose your own way.
Yeah.
God will reward you. God will reward you if you stay in line with him and follow his lead. But if you do not,
go on, Chip. Sorry, let me stop it. Don't let me stop it. Go on. Don't let me stop it.
Well, again, it goes back to this leaning on our own understanding. This is a powerful chapter here.
All right. Okay. If you're finished, let me ask Emmanuel.
Since he is a child, he may be wrong. And if he is wrong and your dad trying to correct you, you shouldn't be angry. You need to take it easy.
Okay. All right. Here is the idea. Okay. Nobody likes to be punished. Nobody likes to be chastised. All right. But what Solomon is saying, as you lean, as you trust in the Lord with all of your heart, as you do not lean on your own understanding, don't misunderstand and scoff at or despise those moments when God disciplines you, when God has to chastise you. Don't disregard that. Why? Because as you do not lean on your own understanding, you need to recognize that the reason you are being chastised, son, is because your father loves you. In other words,
Love-centered correction.
say it again.
Love-centered correction.
It is love-centered correction. So, in other words, what Solomon is saying, there are times when you have to be disciplined. There are times when you have to be corrected. But here is something now. God's correction is not grievous in the sense that it is not meant to do you harm. It is out of his gracious love. And Solomon is saying, don't scoff at that. Don't in other words, don't loathe that. Here's I like this idea, the word reproof. It was used of some, watch this, it's a bit gruesome, but it is used of the sound when somebody is vomiting. All right, it means don't be disgusted by the Lord's training. Now, here I ask you to do this. Write the word discipline on a sheet of paper, that any sheet of paper that you have. Write the word discipline. All right. Below that, write the word disciple. Disciple and discipline. Do you see anything noticeable about those two words? What do you notice about those two words?
For a disciple, you have to have discipline.
You see, the words are almost the same. What Solomon is saying is that when God trains you, when God disciples you, when God disciplines you, it is going to make you wiser. You are being trained, you are being educated by the Lord. Do not despise the training, the discipline, the discipling which comes from the Lord. Why? Because it will fit you for the path of life. It will be your trainer, your educator, to make you better able to live in this life. All right. So that is what he says now about the the training of the Lord. All right. Let's move on. All right. Look at verse 21 through to verse is it verse 13 through to verse 18. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her is better than gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life, whose life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. The Lord by wisdom founded the earth. By understanding he established the heavens. By his knowledge he by his knowledge the deeps broke open, and the clouds dropped down from the dew. All right. Watch what Solomon is saying. Godly wisdom, that is the education that you get from God's word, the training that you get from God's word, your studying of God's word that transforms your mind. What is it better than? Look at verses 20 through to verses 13 to 15. What is it better than? Verse 13 to 15. What is the wisdom of God better than? The training that God.
Gold, jewels, all of this worldly
Jewels.
valued things.
Yeah. You see, all of the material things that you possess, the gold and the silver, the jewels the material blessings that you get, the wisdom, the training that you get from God surpasses that, is greater than that. It's more lasting than that. You see what he's saying? In other words, there are benefits to being trained and educated by God's word, which is wisdom. All right, what does wisdom? And notice now, remember, there are two women in this book. One, the first one we met, which was the adulterous woman. Remember, she was found her earlier, in verses 16 of chapter 2. Right? We saw her being the adulterous woman. That is one type of woman, the woman of folly. But now let us look at Lady Wisdom. She is more precious than gold. Verse 15. And nothing you desire can compare with her. Right? Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She's a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. You see the contrast that he's building up between the adulterous woman and the woman of wisdom. That is the word that you have been trained by. In other words, you want contentment and peace in your life? Go for this type of woman.
Yeah.
Right? Because nothing can compare with her. She has riches and honor. And notice how riches and honor is contrasted with the silver and the gold and the jewels. Because, okay, that's riches. I mean, if you give me gold, I mean, hey, lots of it, I'm rich. But you see, the training that you get from Lady Wisdom is far more precious than that. And I like this verse. It says, Her ways are ways of pleasantness, verse 17, and all her paths are peace. You want peace and contentment? You want the tree of life, the tree of knowledge? Hold fast. Hang on tight to that woman. Don't let her go. All right?
Brother
And
Fisher.
notice now. Yes, yes.
The thing that when we're reading this is really, the Sermon on the Mount is coming into my mind. Don't store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and vermin
Mm-hmm.
destroy and thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in
What?
heaven where moth and vermin don't destroy and thieves can't steal.
Yeah.
So
This is
preaching
the
the
greater
same
value.
lesson here.
Yeah. This is the greater value. But now notice this now. If you follow this woman whose ways are ways of gentleness and other parts are peace, you are blessed. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. All right. Um, those who are those who hold her fast are called blessed or blessed. What are some of the concepts in blessed? Okay, let me give you one. Um, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall see God. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall. What is that blessed? I wonder which wise person brought up the Sermon on the Mount. All right, blessed. What is
So that
Jesus
there is
saying
one of
in
those
that?
here.
What is Jesus saying in that blessed, Emmanuel? What is he saying about? What is Jesus saying when he says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are the meek"? What is the concept in that blessed? All right, here is the
Their
concept.
inheritance.
Hmm?
Inheritance.
You have it's more than just an inheritance. Happy is the man who mourns, for he shall be comforted. The man who is meek in spirit is to be lauded and commended. Happy are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. In other words, people want to be like them. I wish I could be such a person as you. And what Solomon is saying here is that you want somebody that is to be lauded. You are somebody who other people want to be like. That is, you are the person who goes after wisdom. But this wisdom is found in the fear of the Lord. You get what I'm saying? Now, notice how important this is. The Lord, by wisdom, founded the earth. By understanding, he established the heavens. By his knowledge, the deeps broke open and the clouds dropped down the dew. Wisdom is what God used to sustain and create the world. Now, you want to preserve your life, you want to order your life, seek wisdom. Because even God used this wisdom to preserve and create the world. You want to preserve your life, you want to order your life in a godly way, seek wisdom. That's the point in verses 19 and 20. All right. Okay, now let's go to the last part of the, about 80 minutes before we take our break. Let's now look at the last part of chapter 3. That is verse 13 to 20. We won't read all of it because, my son, do not lose sight of these. What must you not lose sight of? Keep sound wisdom and discretion. Why? They will be life for your soul and adornment for your neck. What adorns your neck is not the silver and the gold and the jewel that you put up in the verses above. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden terror or of the ruin of the wicked when it comes, for the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Do not withhold good from those whom it is due when it is your power to do it. All right. What Solomon is saying here is this. You want to keep your foot planted in the good and right way. You want to have contentment and peace that you can sleep at night. You want to rest in the confidence that God gives. Seek his word. Seek the wisdom that he alone can give. Because your foot will you will live a life that is socially acceptable. In other words, do not is in your power, somebody that needs your help, needs your goodness, needs your kindness, because you are wise enough to discern that Solomon is saying, don't not help them. You see what I'm saying? Do not hold good from, if you can do good for somebody, don't not do it. If you get what I mean, do it. If you can, okay. Now then, Emmanuel, now I can say the Nike sign. Just do it. Right? I can use it now, right?
Yeah.
All right. Finally, I got it right. You can live a life of benefit to others. Just do it. Okay? And this is what he is saying. So here is his point. The wisdom and the virtue that you are developing through the word of God, it will not only help you personally, but it will also help your neighbor. In other words, you are not just going to wisdom, discretion, insight, having been trained by the wisdom of God. It doesn't only affect you in an individual way, in the fact that your feet will not stumble, you will not be afraid of all of that. But notice what he says. Do not, verse 20, do not say to your neighbor, go and come again. Tomorrow I will give it when you have it with you. Do not plan beside who dwell trustfully beside you. Do not contend with a man for no reason when he has done you no harm. Do not envy a man of violence and do not choose any of his ways. Solomon is saying, look here, this wisdom that God is giving you, it is not only helping you personally, but it is also helping you and your neighbor. There's a contrast between what is good, what is neighborly, and what is expected of you. So notice in the verse again, these verses, Solomon says, do not be afraid of sudden fear. Okay, look at the number of do nots that he has. Do not say to your neighbor, do not plan evil, do not contend with a man. Why? For the devious person is an abomination to the Lord, but the upright are in his confidence. Here again is an antithesis. That is a contrast. And I'm going to do this later, and I'm going to comment on those things. Don't do this, but do this. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked. Here's the contrast. But he blesses the dwelling of the righteous. To the humble he gives favor. The wise will inherit honor, for fools get disgrace. So here again, there's some contrast in this verse, not just the adulterous lady and the lady wisdom, but there's also the contrast between the fool and the wise. All right, so that is basically what Solomon is suggesting. Any points, any thoughts? All right, let me quickly, we have a couple of minutes, I want to take a break at 10:30. Let us go into chapter 4, and let me give you an outline of chapter 4. All right, and we can break down chapter 4 again into 3 pericopes. All right. First of all, in verses 1 to 9, Solomon says, listen to your parents' wise advice. That's verse 1 through to verse 9. All right. Secondly, pursue the right path in life. And that is from verses 10 through to 19. And then keep on the straight righteous path, verses 20 to the end of the chapter. All right, now let me show you something here. In the previous verses or chapters, Solomon says, my son, my son, my son. He still says, my son, but he begins a different kind of a way. He says, hear, O sons, hear, my son. My son, be attentive to my words. And so he begins in a sort of a different kind of a way. It's the same way that Deuteronomy 6 and verse 4 begins. Anybody knows Hebrews 6, verse 4? Look at Hebrews 6, not Hebrews 6, I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 6 and verse 4. Deuteronomy 6 and verse 4.
Hear,
Here,
O Israel, the Lord our God is Lord one.
all right, is one Lord. All right, here is it. What's the idea of here? Here. I'm using two different hears. All right. Hear, O Israel. He says, Hear, O my son. Hear, my son. Be attentive to my words, my son. What is he?
Listen.
Listen, just listen like that?
No, listen and apply.
Right. Okay. Listen carefully. Listen. Um, listen attentively. Take heed. Um, in the congregation where I worship, I get laughed at sometimes in a positive kind of a way. Because they're always laughing at me. I see Chip is laughing at me. But I have a phrase that I usually use in my preaching. And I do that because I want to draw people's attention to what I'm saying.
Is it watch me now?
You might have heard, yeah, right. You might have heard me say that
Watch me
sometimes.
now.
Right, yes. All right. And it is that kind of a pay close attention to this with the idea that you must give it your full attention so that you can apply it. So when when Solomon says, Hear, O my son, I want you not just to listen with the sensory sound going through your ears, but I want you to listen keenly so that it can impact your life. It's like Jesus says, take heed, right? Take heed. This is the kind of situation that we have. So he says, Hear, hear, O sons, a father's instruction. Be attentive that you may gain insight. I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. All right. Then he says, When I was a son with my father's tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, Let your heart hold fast my words, keep my commandments and live. So, what Solomon is now bringing into the picture is not only a father to a son, he's also bringing in a grandfather to a grandson. In other words, son, David taught me certain things, and I am passing on what I learned from him because he was a man after God's own heart. His instructions are still valid and useful. All right. So that is what he's doing in verse 3. What he's doing is taking back the son to the days of his father. And then he's giving the child his grandfather's insight. When we come back, we're going to begin with verse 5 through to 9, and we will see what happens there. All right. let's take our break now. 10 at 10:45. All right. So we take our break now and then we come back at 10:45. All right. Sorry about that. I was trying to give you back on. All right. We Manuel doesn't seem to be here yet. All right, we are in chapter 4, and let's begin at verse 5 and go through verse 5 to 9. All right. All right. So he talks about the idea of his father, and he begins, as I said, in these verses with "Hear, O my son," and we pointed out that "hear" is not just to hear it in terms of words, but the idea is to be with the view of listening attentively in order to apply. I want to just point out one other thing that he says in verse 3. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, so Solomon says that when David taught him, his heart, he was tender. What do you think he's saying? What idea is the idea in tender? He was, my father, he
Young
was
and
tender.
immature.
All right. For one, he was immature, he was innocent, he was naive. But there's another aspect to tender that I want us to see here. Not only that he was a youth, inexperienced, innocent, naive kind of a thing, but the idea of tender is that he was not tough, he was not resistant, he was tender in the sense that he could be bent, he could be
Receptive.
trained. Say what? Say it again.
Receptive.
He was receptive. In other words, what he's saying is that the word I want us to see here, he's saying I was malleable. Malleable. Malleable, I think it is. Malleable, and meaning I could be groomed. I was susceptible enough to be groomed. In other words, I could be influenced. I was not resistant to what I was being taught. And he's saying, in the same way that I was not resistant to David's instruction, do not, son, be resistant to my instruction, because your grandfather taught me well and it served me well. I'm passing that on to you. All right. Now, in these verses, that is in verses 5 to 9, notice what he says. Again, do not forsake her, that is Lady Wisdom, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guard you. Watch this now. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. In other words, there are benefits to wisdom. There are benefits to being trained. there are benefits that will come to you if you are willing to listen to. Okay, that's basically what Solomon is suggesting. All right. She will guard you. She will praise you. She will exalt you. She will honor you. She will place your head with a garland. She will bestow a crown on you. In other words, there are benefits to listening to her. Verse 10 now through to 12. When do you want to read that from the verses 10 to 12?
Hear my son and accept my sayings, and the years of your life will be many. I have directed you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in upright paths. When you walk, your steps will not be impeded, and if you run, you will not stumble. Take hold of instruction. Do not let go. Guard her, for
15.
she is your life. Keep going.
Yeah, up to 15.
Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not proceed in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not pass by it. Turn away from it and pass on.
All right. What is the description here? Or put it another way, how is Solomon describing life? What does he say life is? Verse 18, verse 12, verse 14. How is he describing? And verse 11, how is he describing life? What does he call uprightness? What does he call uh, he talks about that is also the way of the wicked. He what is he call what is he suggesting that it is? He's saying that life is a pathway. Life is a way on which you travel. But there are two pathways. There's either the pathway of the wicked. You must not walk that way. Don't go down the way of the wicked. Don't follow that pathway. All right? Why? Because it is going to lead to destruction. And he uses a word in verse 12. When you walk, you will not be hampered. Now, the word for hampered here is it's interesting because it is let me see if I can find that word. Yes, it is the word and I'm going to give you the word. The spelling is Tsarar. And what it means is that you will not be constricted. You will not be cramped. You will not be hemmed and boxed in. You will not be confined. In other words, the advice is wisdom teaches you how to walk in this life. And what he's saying, do not follow the path of the wicked. Don't enter it. Don't don't go over it. Here's what he says here. All right, watch this. Um, he says, don't do not enter it, avoid it, turn away from it. Do not walk it. Do not let go. Don't let your guard down. Don't enter the path of the wicked. Don't walk in the way of the evil. Avoid it. Don't go on it. Turn away from it. Pass on from it. In other words, in all of these series of verbs, Solomon is saying that's not how you want to live your life. That's not how you want your life to be. Don't conduct your life that way. All right. Just say no. Right. Just say no. Because down that road is trouble, it's harm, it's danger, it's wide and it's broad, and it will lead to destruction. You remember what Jesus says?
Yeah, Matthew chapter 7.
That's what you were thinking of?
Verse 13 to 14.
Read it. Yeah, go on.
It said, enter by a narrow gate, for the wide is the gate and the broad is the way that leads to destructions, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way of which leads to life, and there are few who find it.
Yeah. In other words, what Solomon is saying, that way, that broad way, don't enter it, don't pass it, don't go through it, that way of life, that pattern of life, he's saying to the young man, turn away from it. Don't make the mistake and go down that road. All right? As sometimes people say, don't go down that road. You don't want to go down that road. All right? And that is what Solomon is saying. You must enter that pathway of life. And if you do that, you will not stumble. All right? That's him in chapter in verses 13 right down to verse number 20 to 19. For here's what he says now. For they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made somebody stumble. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But here's the contrast again. But the path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. The way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what over what they stumble. What is he suggesting here to this young man? All right. When I was earlier, I'm a trained teacher by profession. That's my profession. I taught for some 30 years, right? And I have always taught teenage boys. I have taught between the ages of 10, 11 through to 18, those troublesome years. All right. And you sometimes you see a young man going down a wrong direction and you want to tell him, no, you don't want to go down that road. Don't go down there. Don't do, because that road will lead you to destruction. All right. And that's what he's saying. And wisdom will guard you away from that lifestyle, from that pathway. All right. And if we have, if you don't have teenager, if you don't have kids yet, or if you have them and they're 6, 7, 8, there's gonna come a time when they get the teenage years and they want their own way and they want to be, they think they're grown and they're independent, but they're not really. They make stupid mistakes. They lack the experience. Like when I taught in high school, um, I've had students say to me, "Sir, you don't understand. Um, sir, you're not listening." My son tells me sometimes, "Daddy, you're not listening to me." And I said, "Okay, I'll listen." So I listen and I hear him out and hear him out, and I say, "Okay, then fine. You still have to do what you're supposed to do." You say, "You can't say I haven't listened." Right? But they'll say that. But what Solomon is saying is the idea that you don't want young man to go down that way. All right, because all of it is going to be problems and difficulty. All right, watch him now, um, to the point where the wicked person can't sleep, they can't rest, they suffer from insomnia. They just, okay. I think Isaiah is the person who says the wicked are like a restless sea. They rest neither night or day or something like that. All right, so that's what Solomon is warning these mistakes. Now, when we get to chapter verses 20 to 27, the introduction says that
You're breaking up really bad, Eddie.
um, um,
Eddie, we can't hear you, brother.
incline your ear to my sayings. Let them
Okay.
This
All right.
network.
I lost him. It's getting too good, I guess. I get some coffee.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Is it much better?
it's much better. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine. Thanks. All right. So in verses, let's look now at verses 20 to 27. For they are life to those who find them and healing to all their flesh. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the spring of life. Put away from your crooked speech and put and your devious talk from you. Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze straight before you. Ponder the path of fear of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot from evil. So what Solomon does now is to he begins to look at the whole human person. He says, Um, your heart, keep your heart with all vigilance. Turn away from crooked speech. So make sure that your speech is sound. Make sure that your speech is not vile. Uh, your eyes, keep focus, your eyes directly forward. Uh, your gaze must be before you. Your feet must be sure. In other words, you know where you're going and don't move from it from neither the left nor the right. So that is what Solomon now looks at to this young man and saying, keep focus. Don't be swayed by the evil that is around you. All right. Now, we go into chapter 5. Now, this is going to be an interesting chapter 5, because what Solomon has been doing up to that point, from chapter 3, is telling the young man, this is the way that you ought to live. This is the way you ought to guide life. And so what he is doing from the latter part of chapter 3 right down to chapter 6 that we're going to look at, he is giving specific examples of the temptations that are out there, specific examples of how you can lose focus. And he's saying to the young man, his son, you now have to be careful that you are grounded in wisdom, the wisdom that comes from God. So here is an example that he says. Chapter 5. My son, be attentive to my wisdom. Incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion, and your lips may guard knowledge. All right. He begins by saying, you need to be attentive, pay special attention to this. So, as I like to do, I'm going to break down again this chapter in terms of sections, because I think it's easier for you to, well, as I said, I should be imposing me on you, but I always find when you sectionalize things, it gives me a greater focus. So in chapter 5, we have 3 sections that we can divide the chapter into. The first comes in verses 1 to 6. And that is concerned with the charm of the seductress. The charm of the seductress. seductress. Verses 1 to 6. Then he warns of the price of infidelity. The price of infidelity in verses 7 to 14. And then he talks about the delight of a faithful marriage in verses 15 to 23, the delights of a faithful marriage. All right.
So that's 15, you said? 15 to the end of the chapter?
Yes, the end of the chapter.
And what did you caption that one?
The delights of a faithful marriage. All right. Look at what he says now. My son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she's bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Steps follow the paths to Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it. All right. Here's Solomon. Solomon is saying, this seductress, this unfaithful woman, this adulteress, she has, her appeal is deceptive. She can charm you. All right. How does she do that? Notice how he's describing how seductive she is. Her lips drip honey. Her speech is smoother than oil. So what Solomon is saying is that her appeal, they are attractive. She's attractive. He uses, they drip honey, and they're smoother than oil. But if you don't use your discretion to see through this, you will recognize, you will come to see that in the end of it all, in all of this temptation and seduction and enticement and all of that, she's as bitter as a wormwood. She's a two-edged sword. Her feet will lead you down to Sheol, down to the grave. She does not ponder the path of life, and she wanders away from her marital commitment. What is Solomon warning his son about? Solomon is warning his son about the consequences of such a relationship. Okay? In the end, she is going to bring you regret. So don't go down that route. No. If there is any person who knows about that, it would be Solomon. All right. Now, here is how he is going to warn her now. Warn the young man. And this is from verse 7 to 14. And now, my son, and now, O son, listen to me. All right? Listen. Do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way from her, and do not go near the door of her house, lest you give your honor to others and your years to the merciless, lest strangers take their full of your strength and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. At the end of your life you groan, when your flesh and body are consumed, and you say, how I hated discipline, and my heart despised reproof. I did not listen to the voice of my teachers, or incline my ear to my instructors. I am at the brink of utter ruin in the assembled congregation. What is Solomon pointing out to this young man?
He leaned on his own understanding.
All right, he leaned on his own understanding, and what was the consequence?
The consequence was not good. He looked bad in front of God and all of the people.
In other words, Emmanuel, what do you think? What is Solomon suggesting here?
He is urging his son to keep far from temptation and also to avoid disgrace. In other words, to regret and a wasted life.
All right, here's the point. Both of you are on it. Here's what Solomon is saying. If you don't listen to me and go down that path and follow this seductive woman, you are going to lose your integrity. You're going to lose your reputation. You're going to be, well, you will suffer shame among the congregation. In other words, there is no good here. At the end of it, he says, I am at the brink of ruin in the assembled congregation. You are heading for the great fall. You're going to lose your reputation. You're going to lose your integrity. You're going to be ashamed right before everybody. And then when it is too late, what are you going to say? At the end of your life, you groan. When your flesh and body are consumed and you say, how I hate discipline and my heart despise reproof. I did not listen to the voice of my teachers. So Solomon is saying, you are going to suffer regret. Don't do that. That is not to your benefit. All right. Now he's going to get very personal here. All right. Notice what he says from verse 15 through to verse 20. I'll deal with this one first. All right. He says, drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the streets? Let them be for yourself alone, and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For a man's way are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he's led astray. Solomon gets very, in these verses, he gets very personal. In fact, the image here is erotic. There are sexual images here. And what is Solomon saying in this verse? Anybody
You
want
will
to jump at
die.
it? What is Solomon? Hmm?
I mean, it's a 23 says he will die for lack of instruction. Well, when we're reading it, there's this stubbornness and instruction is despised. So, the ears weren't opened to actually listen to the instruction.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anything else? All right. Emmanuel, what is between verses 15 through to the end of the chapter, in fact? What is
Solomon is talking about marriage,
mm-hmm.
and he said he should drink water from his own cistern, which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes symbolizes faithfulness in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he said sexual desire is not condemned, but it's regulated by God. This also rings a bell in my ear, according to Hebrews chapter 13,
Mm-hmm.
verse 4. It said, marriage is honorable among all, and the bed undefiled, but fornicators and adulterers God will judge.
Okay.
That was
Mm-hmm.
13:4, Emmanuel.
13:4. Mm-hmm. All right.
This also mentions one wife, Eddie. I wanted to that was something I noticed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, hinting at maybe just stick with one.
Okay. Well, in this case, well, Solomon had many wives. All
Right.
right. In
But
fact,
it's a suggestion to his next of kin here, right?
right? In other words, what they're saying is not that Solomon had more than one wife. His wife had him. Anyway, um, here is the point. It is the person to whom you married. That's basically what he's suggesting. And what Solomon is saying, Solomon is doing two things here. Solomon is saying, number one, be faithful to your partner. Be faithful to your marriage vows. That's one. Secondly, what the passage is teaching is that marriage is the place where you satisfy your sexual needs in marriage. Outside of marriage, that's sinful. All right. Now, I want to give you a cliche that that have guided me, um, and it has sort of concretized for me what the Bible teaches about marriage and sexual relationships and all of that. All right. And this is it. And if you want, you can write it down. What the Bible teaches is chastity before marriage and fidelity in marriage. See it again. The Bible, if you are going to sum up what the Bible teaches about sexual sins and marriage and all of that, for me, it is chastity before marriage and fidelity in marriage. That's the biblical teaching. Fornication, adultery, all of that. And what God is saying is that there is a place for sexual pleasures to be satisfied, and that is only in marriage with your partner. If you go outside of those bounds, not only do you break the commands of God regarding marriage, but you're also ruining your personal self. And that is what Solomon is saying here. Solomon is saying, look here, when, all right, why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? All right, for a man's ways are before God sees, and he ponders your path. The iniquities of the wicked and snare him. Don't be tempted to go off in any adulterous relationship, because you're going to ruin your reputation, you're going to ruin your integrity, and you are going to become a shame in front of everybody. That's Solomon. And Solomon now is guiding the young man, um, and warning him against having an adulterous relationship. That's verses 15 to 20. In fact, that's the end of the chapter. So from chapter 3 right down through to chapter 6 that we're going to be looking at, Solomon is giving practical advice as to how this young man ought to live and conduct himself. Whether it is going to be how he treats his neighbor socially, whether it is going to be his personal life and all of that. This is the way to live, because if you don't follow wisdom in this regard, you are going to regret it. Remember, he begins by saying the discipline that God gives, the chastening that God gives, is to transform and educate you as to how to live along the paths of life. All right? And that's chapter 5. Now, in the remaining time that we have, let's look at chapter 6. All right? Let me give you an outline again of chapter 6. Ready?
Sure.
Okay. There is the instructions on giving a pledge to someone. And this is now chapter 6. Instructions on giving a pledge to someone. That is verses 1 to 6. Verse 1 to 5, rather. Instructions on giving a pledge for someone. Verses 1 to 5. All right. He gives the example of the ant and warns against laziness in chapter 6 and verse 11. The example of an ant and warns against laziness in verses 6 to 11. There is a description of the downfall of the wicked in verses 12 to 15. In verses 16 to 19, he describes the things that the Lord hates, attitudes that the Lord hates, in verses 16 to 19. And again, he comes back in verses 20 to 35 to warn against adultery. Get that? Do you want me to repeat anything? Sorry. All right. Now, let's look at chapter 6, verse 1 to 5. Could somebody read that for me, please? All
6,
right.
1 through 5.
Yes.
My son, if you have become surety for your neighbor, have given a pledge for a stranger, if you have been snared with the words of your mouth, have been caught with the word of your mouth, do this then, my son, and deliver yourself. Since you have come into the hand of your neighbor, go, humble yourself, and inopportune your neighbor. Give no sleep to your eyes, nor slumber to your eyelids. Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hunter's hand, and like a bird from the hand of the fowler.
All right.
You want
Okay.
6 as well?
No, just up to verse 5 for now. All right. Um, I want to give you um this word, and it is the word, and it is epigram. Epigram. And that Solomon is using an epigram. And I'm going to explain what an epigram is. And he does that between verses 1 and 19. And he's going to give about 3 or 4 epigrams in this chapter. What is an epigram? An epigram is a short, and I'm going to explain what I mean. It's a short, witty statement, a short, witty statement or poem that expresses a single idea in a clever, brief verse. All right. Let me give you another expansion of that. The epigram is a saying or thought in a humorous or ironic way. All right. Here's epigram. It's where you use a couple of lines, and I need to look at these literary terms. A short, witty statement. It could be a short poem that is meant to be humorous or says the opposite of what it means, irony, teaching a particular idea. But that idea, he's doing it in a humorous way to make the point that he's trying to make. So it's a short, either statement or poem that makes a point in a comical, humorous, witty way. All right. If you notice, it is similar to a proverb. If you look at the definition that we've given to about a proverb on Monday, the difference is that the tone of the proverb is not comical and witty. It's more serious in a proverb than in a epigram. So what's the epigram here that Solomon is giving? Between verses 1 to 9, Solomon is saying, here is one way that you are going to be wise. In your economic life, verses 1 to 5, you give your word to your neighbor that you are going to pay a debt. You're going to stand security for somebody. Don't give your word when you know that you cannot fulfill it. He says, don't sneer your mouth. You make a commitment. Your neighbor your neighbor, you make a commitment with your neighbor that you're going to stand surety for somebody. If the person cannot pay the debt and you make the commitment to stand surety, make sure that you're able to do it. Because wisdom teaches how you're going to relate, not just in your personal life, but wisdom teaches you how to live with your neighbor. Wisdom teaches you how to be responsible to those around you, how to honor your obligations that you make. In other words, in your economic life, if the I stand surety for you, Chip. You borrowed some money from him, and I say, okay, then whatever happens to Chip, I'll stand it. I'll guarantee the loan. Now, if I know that I cannot pay back Emmanuel, I must not. Wisdom says, don't make that commitment. Because if you make that commitment, you are responsible. Wisdom says, think it through. What Solomon is saying here is this: when you can't pay Chip, I, as the person who assumed your responsibility, must go to Emmanuel and try to make a deal with him. So what is Solomon saying?
Would this preach to your word is your bond?
Your word is your bond. Wisdom says you economically. Don't make a commitment. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, have given your pledge for a stranger, then do this, my son, and save yourself. You have come into the hand of your neighbor to hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird, because the Emmanuel is going to come for his money. Right? Okay, and as much as Emmanuel says, oh, I'm a forgiving Christian and all of that, I still want my money. All right? And Solomon says, wisdom should teach you how to relate to those around you. Good? Now, notice also what Solomon is going to say, which is very good here. All right? Look from verses 6 now to verse 15. Emmanuel, you want to read this one for me? Verses 6 to 15.
Go to an ant, you sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no captain, overseer, or ruler, provide her surprise in the summer, and gathers her food in the harvest. How long will you slumber, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of hands to sleep. So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like armed man. A worthless person, a wicked man, walks with a perverse mouth.
All right, right up to verse 15.
He who winks with his eyes, he suffers his feet. He points with his fingers. Perversity is in his heart. He advises evil continually. He sows discord. Therefore, his calamity shall come suddenly. Suddenly he shall be broken without remedy.
All right. What is Solomon saying here?
Wisdom and diligence in work. And
All
he
right.
uses an ant. He presented an ant as a role model, as in we should be diligent and in also preparation and self-motivated. So he says the ant works without external compulsion. And in other words, laziness also leads to inevitable to poverty.
Oh, all right. Yeah, good, great. Chip,
Reap what you sow.
here's this. You look at the ant. That ant is a worker. He knows how to prepare himself for the winter months. He's not lazy. You love sleep too much. You are a sluggard. And what he's saying is this wisdom says you must prepare and not be an idle person. Use your discretion. Look at the ant. Nobody says the ant must go and take up things and save for the difficult time. So Solomon is saying the sluggard, the lazy person, God doesn't want a lazy person. Right? In other words, be industrious, my son. Prepare for the word, the rainy day. You are going to reap what you sow in this way. If you sow, you will reap. If you don't reap, if you don't sow, you won't reap. In
This
other
also
words,
use your talent.
say it again.
I said this also preaches to use your talents.
Use your talent. Don't bury it. In other words, Emmanuel, you used a term at the beginning where you talked about, you started off your statement by saying something about economic thing. Preparing for the worst. And he uses it and he says, you don't you love sleep too much? But I notice something now, what he says about a worthless person. The person is not only lazy and sluggish, a sluggard, but he is a worthless person. Watch this worthless person now. A worthless person, a wicked man. Solomon now is going to describe the physique, if you wish, of this man, the physical makeup of this man. He has a crooked speech. In other words, he has a deceitful speech. In other words, he has a persuasive tongue. All right, a persuasive speech. He winks with his eyes. You can see the deception in his eyes. He signals with his feet. And like the way he points at you with his finger, he has a perverted heart. Therefore, calamity will come upon him suddenly. In a moment, he will be broken beyond healing. Don't be that person. All right, you see what I mean? This is the result of a wicked man. Look at it. And Solomon is describing the man's physical features, his speech, his eyes, his feet, his fingers. Everything about him is just wrong. All right, now look at this verse in the remaining time that we have. Chip, you want to read this one for me, verses 16 to 19?
There are 6 things which the Lord hates, yes, 7 which are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that run rapidly to evil, a false witness who utters lies, and one who spreads strife amongst brothers.
All right. There are some things that the Lord despises. There are certain behaviors, there are certain attitudes that God despises. Now, here's the point. Does God still despise these things? Or
Yes,
has God become a Christian now, so he has changed all of this?
still
No,
despises.
he still despises a, somebody who's proud, the person who lies, the person who murders, the person who sits down and plans how he is going to cause hurt. All right? A heart that despises evil plans, a person who is quick to make mischief, a feet that haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies and shows discord among his brethren. Those things God despises. Those attitudes God does not uphold. Don't be a part of that. So, in your personal life, be careful what attitudes you have, be careful what behaviors we have, because God does not approve of those. So, the wise man knows how he's going to conduct himself in his community. The wise man is also going to know how to conduct himself personally, and he's also going to know how to conduct himself among others. That's the wise man. All right. Okay. Here is, so Solomon now, after he's talking about that, he goes back to warn against the sin of adultery. And this is from verse 20 to verse 35. All right. Now, we have about 8 minutes left. Okay, now watch this. My son, keep your father's instruction, your father's commandment, and forsake not your mother's teaching. Bind them on your heart always and tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. When you wake, they will talk with you. For the commandment is a lamp and a teaching a light. And the reproof of discipline are the way of life, to preserve you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. All right. Now, what Solomon is saying, he comes back again to the sin of adultery. And you want to see, well, Solomon breaks, because you see, he started talking about the adulterous woman in chapter 5. And what he does, here's how he develops his argument. He breaks that conversation, that point about the adulterous woman, he breaks it with some epigrams. He talks about the money, economic life. He talks about the lazy person. He talks about what God hates, and then goes back to what he was talking about in chapter 5 from verse 19 to the end. Is what he does. He doesn't want us to be always reading about this adulterous woman. So he shifts our mind to something else. The economic life, the lazy man, what God hates. And then he says, oh, you thought I forgot? I'm going to come back to the adulterous woman. And he does. We'll get through all of it, but he says, do not desire her beauty in your heart, and do not let her capture you with her eyelids, her eyelashes. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread. I'm going to have to come back to this because before I go on to the next thing, a loaf of bread.
Give you something to talk about for 5 minutes.
But a married woman, can a man carry fire to him?
I said I can give you something to talk about for 5 minutes.
Okay. What's that?
Well, I was just going through the syllabus and I was kind of interested in hoping that you would kind of tell us what the midterm and the finals are going to kind of look like. Are these going to be open notes, open book? What are these? Is it open-ended, multiple choice? Like, can you fill us in on that?
Okay. What basically it is going to be? All right. Chip, my brother. All right. The exam is going to be open book. What I will give you is I will give you some selected verses, right? So, for instance, I might give you chapter 6, verse 16 to 19. All right? And I will ask you to comment on those verses. That's basically what's going to be. I might give you a verse, and you might have to fill in what it says and then explain it. So basically, it is going to be about looking at the verses and just giving your comments, your commentary on those verses. All right, and that's basically what I want us to do. So you see how I'm giving you like the word hasad and the different words that it means and what it implies. Because okay, the word eyelids, I'm going to comment on what is that suggesting about the woman. All right. You might want to pick out and say, okay, well, eyelids is this word is used and it suggests this about. So basically, it is going. I want your response. That's the exam. Your response to certain themes. I might ask you, for instance, in the exam, what difference does Solomon give between the woman of folly and the woman of wisdom? All right. So it is going to be you engaging with the text, and you will get that, and it is going to be open book. But basically, it is going to be what I don't want you to use though is AI. Is that you are just going to give me your response to text that I'm giving. All right. So that basically is what we're going to be giving the test about. All right. Now we come back and we're going to finish chapter 6 and then move on to the chapter 7 and the other verses. Now, what I want you to do in the meantime is to go and look at the notes that Daniel has on the LMS, right? I want you to go and read. In fact, he does have some things to say about the woman of folly and all of that, about wisdom and all of that. I do want you to go and look at that. All right? And we can discuss that for next week. Okay? Fine with that, Emmanuel? Emmanuel?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And you have found the material on the LMS, haven't you?
Sure.
Right. Good. So I want you to read that. What Brother Steersman says about the Proverbs, the background. I want you to read up to maybe the first um, maybe the first 6 verses or 6 pages. In fact, read for me what he says about introduction to Proverbs and the wisdom literature. Um, Read that for the next class, and then I'll then assign you other readings from what he has to say. All right. Okay. Any thoughts on the class? Any responses? Any takeaways? Any things that you
When are
particularly
we
like
going to
about
start?
it?
When do we
Mhm.
need to start giving you these? So we have 3 sermons.
Okay. When we finish just when we are about to finish the book of Midway Point, I will tell you when we get to maybe about. I want you to do it on purpose because I don't want to give it to me tomorrow when you might see something in chapter 19, chapter 15, another chapter that you want. All right. So I will tell you that I'll give you ample notice as to when you need to give me the sermon outline.
Fantastic.
All right. Fine. Okay. All right. Imani, do you want to dismiss us, please?
Yes, sir. We appreciate your greatness, O God, for giving us wisdom and understanding of your word. Father, we thank you for our teacher, Eddie, for imparting your wisdom unto us, so that we also impart it unto the world, so that it will draw them to you. As you always say, we should go into the world and make disciples to all nations. We know that Proverbs has given us a lot of wisdom that we must also impart into the world. Father, we appreciate your greatness and also commit our tutor unto your care. Also thanking you for GSTS for such an opportunity given unto us to learn your word and also impart it into the world. Father, give us understanding anytime our teacher or anytime we pick up your Bible, give us an illumination so that we will also learn and also give unto others, as your word says. As we are about to depart, we also commit ourselves unto you. Continue to protect us, give us strength and understanding of everything. And at the end, we say glory and adoration be unto your name. We thank you for giving this opportunity unto us to study your word. Pray through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right.
Thank you,
Enjoy the
brother.
rest of your day, and I'll
Will
see
do.
you on Monday.
Right.
Thank you
Yeah,
and
have a great
same to you.
weekend.
All right. Have a good weekend. All right.